Every single day, billions of people around the world sit down to a bowl of noodles, and almost none of them know the wild history tangled up in every strand. One noodle was buried in the ground for 4,000 years. Another was voted a greater invention than karaoke. One isn't even made from grain at all, and turns completely clear when you cook it. From the streets of Tokyo to the kitchens of Italy, noodles tell the story of human civilization better than almost any other food. So let's travel the world and explore every major type of noodle. Explained. Wheat noodles. For years, people argued about who really invented the noodle, with Italy, China, and the Middle East all claiming credit. Then, in 2005, archaeologists settled it. Along the Yellow River in northwestern China, they dug up a 4,000-year-old bowl of noodles, thin and yellow, sitting exactly where someone had left them millennia ago. But here's where it gets strange. They weren't made from wheat. They were made from millet, an ancient grain. This single discovery pushed noodle history back thousands of years, and strongly suggested noodles were being made in China long before anywhere else on Earth. Wheat noodles as we know them came later, once wheat spread across Asia and cooks discovered what it could do. And what it could do was remarkable. Wheat contains a protein called gluten, which forms long, stretchy strands when flour meets water and gets kneaded. That elasticity is the whole secret. It's what lets a noodle be pulled, rolled, and stretched impossibly thin without ever snapping apart. Nearly every noodle tradition that followed, across every continent, was built on that one simple idea of flour, water, and patience. Ramen. Most people picture ramen as deeply, purely Japanese, and today it absolutely is. But the dish actually arrived from China in the late 1800s. Chinese cooks brought wheat noodles served in hot broth to Japanese port cities like Yokohama, and Japan slowly made the dish entirely its own. The word ramen most likely comes from the Chinese lamian, meaning pulled noodle. What separates a real ramen noodle from ordinary wheat noodles is a special ingredient called kansui, an alkaline mineral water that gives the noodles their signature springy bite and slightly yellow color. Without kansui, you just have plain noodles floating in soup. Over time, each region of Japan built its own style. There's the rich, cloudy pork bone tonkotsu broth of Fukuoka, the hearty miso ramen of the snowy northern island of Hokkaido, and the simple soy-based shoyu ramen of Tokyo. Then, once instant ramen was invented in a small Japanese kitchen, this once humble bowl exploded into one of the most eaten foods on the entire planet. Not bad for a dish that started as a foreign import. Rice noodles. In the warm, wet regions of southern China and Southeast Asia, rice grows far more easily than wheat, so cooks there turn to rice to make their noodles instead. Rice noodles are made by grinding rice into a smooth paste, steaming that paste into thin sheets, and slicing the sheets into strands. Because rice contains no gluten, these noodles turn out softer and more delicate, with a slippery, tender texture rather than a firm chew. They come in every size imaginable, from the wide, flat noodles sizzling in a Thai pad see ew to the thin, silky vermicelli threads floating in a steaming bowl of Vietnamese pho. One of the best things about rice noodles is how beautifully they soak up flavor, which is exactly why they anchor so many soups and stir-fries across Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. They carry the broth instead of fighting it. And long before it was ever a health trend printed on packaging, rice noodles were naturally, completely gluten-free, feeding half the continent without anyone thinking twice. Italian pasta. Almost everyone has heard the romantic story that the explorer Marco Polo carried noodles back from China to Italy, but historians agree that tale is mostly a myth. Italians were very likely making pasta before Polo ever set sail for Asia. What truly makes Italian pasta distinct isn't the origin story, it's the wheat. Traditional pasta uses durum wheat, an especially hard variety that gets milled into a coarse golden flour called semolina. This hard wheat is what gives quality pasta its firm, satisfying bite, the exact quality Italians proudly call al dente, meaning to the tooth. Dried pasta became a staple across Italy because it could be stored for months without spoiling, making it perfect for long sea voyages and lean winters. Over the centuries, Italian cooks developed hundreds of different shapes, and each one was designed to hold sauce in its own particular way. The ridged tubes of rigatoni trap thick meat sauce inside, while the tight spirals of fusilli cling to lighter dressings. The shape is never just for decoration. It genuinely changes how the sauce grips every single bite. Soba. Up in the cooler, mountainous regions of Japan, where rice struggled to grow, farmers relied on a tough, hardy plant called buckwheat, and from it, they created soba. Now here's the surprising part. Despite the name, buckwheat isn't wheat at all, and it isn't even a grain. It's actually the seed of a flowering plant related to rhubarb. Soba noodles have a distinctly earthy, nutty flavor and a grayish-brown color that instantly sets them apart from pale, smooth wheat noodles. In Tokyo, making soba by hand is treated as a genuine art form, and dedicated soba masters spend years learning to roll and slice the delicate dough into perfectly even strands. Soba is wonderfully versatile too. It can be served hot in a savory broth on a cold day, or chilled on a slatted bamboo tray with a dipping sauce in summer. There's even a cherished Japanese tradition of eating a bowl of long soba noodles right at midnight on New Year's Eve, where the long strands symbolize a long, healthy, and prosperous life ahead. Udon. If soba is the slim, earthy noodle of the mountains, then udon is its big, soft, comforting cousin. Udon are thick, white wheat noodles famous for a texture that's soft yet remarkably chewy, the kind of bite that's deeply satisfying to sink your teeth into. They're made from just three humble ingredients: wheat flour, water, and salt. But the real magic lives in the kneading. Traditionally, the udon dough is so stiff and firm that makers knead it with their feet, wrapping it in plastic and stepping on it to build up that signature springy bounce. Udon noodles are wonderfully mild and neutral in flavor, which makes them a perfect blank canvas for a warm, soy-based dashi broth, or a simple topping of sliced green onion and crispy tempura. On a cold, rainy day in Japan, a steaming bowl of udon is the sort of food that feels like a warm hug from the inside, and nearly every region has its own proud local version, with people getting genuinely, hilariously passionate about whose hometown udon truly reigns supreme. Glass noodles. These might just be the most magical-looking noodles on the entire planet, because they turn completely clear and glassy the moment they finish cooking. Often called cellophane noodles, their secret is that they aren't made from wheat, rice, or any grain flour at all. Instead, they're made from pure starch, usually drawn from mung beans, sweet potato, or tapioca root. When that starch is formed into noodles and dropped into hot water, it transforms into something translucent and slippery, with a bouncy, almost springy chew unlike anything else. Because they carry so little flavor of their own, glass noodles behave like tiny sponges, greedily soaking up whatever sauce or broth surrounds them. You'll find them all across Asia in different disguises. There's Korean japchae, where the clear noodles are stir-fried in nutty sesame oil, with colorful vegetables and beef. There are the bright, tangy glass noodle salads of Thailand. There's Korean japchae, where the clear noodles are stir-fried in nutty sesame oil, with colorful vegetables and beef. There are the bright, tangy glass noodle salads of Thailand, and in China, a beloved dish with the poetic name ants climbing a tree features these see-through strands tangled up with little bits of seasoned minced pork. Egg noodles. While countless noodles rely on nothing more than flour and water, egg noodles add a layer of richness by mixing whole eggs directly into the dough, and this clever little upgrade appears in kitchens all over the world. The eggs lend these noodles a warm, golden color, a wonderfully tender texture, and a fuller, more indulgent flavor. In China, egg noodles form the classic springy base beneath a bowl of wonton noodle soup or a sizzling plate of chow mein. Travel to Eastern Europe and Jewish kitchens, and wide egg noodles turn up in comforting home-style dishes like a baked kugel. Head to Germany, and you'll find Spätzle, a soft, fresh egg noodle made by scraping loose dough straight into boiling water, forming irregular little dumpling-like squiggles. What's genuinely fascinating is how many completely separate cultures, oceans apart, independently landed on the very same idea of enriching their noodles with egg, each one convinced it was their own local invention, and every time, the result is a noodle that feels just a little more luxurious. Instant noodles. In 1958, a determined Japanese inventor named Momofuku Ando quietly changed the way the entire world eats. After the devastation of the war, food was scarce across Japan, and Ando became obsessed with creating a noodle that was cheap, filling, long-lasting, and ready to eat in minutes. His breakthrough came from flash-frying steamed noodles in hot oil, a process that dried them out completely, while leaving thousands of microscopic holes running all through each strand. Those tiny holes were the genius part, because they let boiling water rush back in and cook the noodles in just 2 or 3 minutes flat. Years later, he perfected the cup version, where you simply add hot water and wait. Instant noodles became a genuine global phenomenon, feeding hungry students, overworked factory workers, and budget travelers on every single continent. Today, well over 100 billion servings are slurped down worldwide every year, and in one famous Japanese national survey, people voted instant noodles the country's greatest invention of the 20th century, ranking them ahead of karaoke and even the compact disc, hand-pulled noodles. Of every noodle on earth, none are quite as hypnotic to watch being made as the hand-pulled noodles of northern China, known as ramen. A master noodle maker begins with a single unassuming lump of dough, and then, through a mesmerizing rhythm of stretching, folding, and slapping it hard against the counter, doubles the number of strands over and over again. In just a couple of minutes, one lonely piece of dough becomes dozens, then hundreds of long, impossibly thin noodles, every strand pulled entirely by hand without a single machine. The whole thing is only possible because of gluten, the wheat protein, which the constant stretching and folding aligns into strong, elastic threads that refuse to break. The most legendary dish built on these noodles is lanzhou beef noodle soup, served in a clear, deeply aromatic broth scented with spices. Watching a true master work looks less like cooking dinner and more like witnessing a live performance, and it genuinely takes years of daily practice to master. It's the perfect reminder that the humble noodle, in the right pair of hands, quietly becomes a work of art. So there you have it, 10 noodles that circle the entire globe, each one carrying thousands of years of history in a single strand. From that ancient bowl buried by the Yellow River, to the pasta shapes of Italy, to the instant cup that fed the world, noodles turn out to be one of the most human foods there is. If you learned something new today, the next food mystery is already waiting for you on screen right now. Go click it